Hi, third and fourth graders. Today we're going to do a drawing that will be used in the Christmas video this school year. So you want to make sure you absolutely follow directions and do your very best on this, especially with your coloring. It's a pretty simple drawing. It's just Mary and baby Jesus. There's not a whole lot of detail, but it will be very important for you to do your best drawing the lines and then adding the color. That'll be where it really stands out. So for this project, we want to make sure that your paper is vertical or shower style, the tall way. So the first step, you're going to very lightly on above halfway on your paper in the center, you're going to draw a circle, and you can kind of sketch that so it makes a good circle, and it's going to be about the size of an Oreo. Okay, think about how big an Oreo is and if it would fit inside of that circle. If it's closer to the size of a quarter, it's too small. It needs to be about the size of an Oreo or a small cookie. Okay, so it's not touching the top. There's some space on the top, but it's above halfway there. Okay, the next step, you're going to make a little mark that's a little above halfway inside of your circle there. Okay, and you're going to kind of draw a line that's a bit diagonal to the side of your circle there. Okay, then from there you're going to come down this way a little bit. I'm not touching the bottom yet. And then I'm going to kind of slightly curve down to touch the bottom here. So it's almost like I drew a C, but it's slanted. It's not a perfect C going sideways. It's a little more slanted than that. Okay. Then I'm going to go about halfway here. And I'm going to draw a line that goes straight diagonal here. Okay, so it should look like a semicircle here. Now, this line here, I'm going to very slowly keep bringing it out, out, out. And I'm going to slowly curve it all the way to the bottom of my paper. Okay, now notice this line is still not even halfway over on my paper. It's about halfway between the edge of my paper. Sorry, you can see that. Halfway between the edge of my paper and the middle of my paper. So it did not come all the way to the middle here. It stayed kind of over on this half of my paper. Okay? Then from this line, you're going to kind of follow the one you just drew, and as it gets closer to the bottom of your paper, it's going to get a little bit wider. So I came past halfway and kind of came on this half of my paper. Okay, you see how it's skinnier up here, and then it gets wider as I go down. And just draw this all light, use light lines, and you can kind of sketch slowly. Pay attention to where you're going. Don't just draw a really fast line and then have to go and erase it again. Go really slow and say, okay, is it following this line? Is it going where it needs to go? Is it coming too far over? Pay attention to what you're doing. Go nice and slow and make that line get a little bit wider on the bottom, but not too much. All right? Okay, and then we're going to go about halfway up on this. All right? We are going to make a line that slightly curves under and comes over, okay? It's going to go just past or about equal to where the edge of my circle is here, okay? So it's going to come about that far over. So I went a little too far, so I'm just going to erase that there, okay? And then from that point here, you're going to draw a line that comes down here. Okay, so it just kind of curves down like this. So this is slightly curved. It comes to a point, and then comes back down. All right, if you draw this lightly, it'll be easy to erase if you need to. Okay? From that line, I'm going to come back up here. I'm coming over just slightly, and I'm going to draw a line that comes up almost straight down, and it runs into this. And then below that, I'm going to kind of jump through there, and then this is going to curve and get a little bit wider as I go down here. So it's kind of like this one here. It's going to start there, and then it's slowly going to get wider. Okay? Now we're going to go back up here. From this point here, I'm going to kind of make a circle. All right, so again, it's a little bit smaller than this one. You can kind of slowly sketch it out. This one's a little bit bigger than a quarter. I can't really think of any food that is about that size. It's a little bit bigger than a quarter. A quarter would probably work. And then inside of that, you're going to making sure you're about this point where you're starting, another smaller circle. That one's about the size of a nickel or a grape. Okay? And then from here, you're going to come and make a line to that other one there. Okay? All right, so I don't need this line here anymore. Okay. All right, so then if you're pretty happy with this, you can make those lines a little darker if you want. Otherwise, we are going to trace over them. The only thing we are missing now is a star up here, and then we can add some stars onto Mary's gown here. So for this star up here, you're going to come up into this corner, and what we're going to do is we're going to make like a small skinny mountain or an upside down V. Okay? Sorry, you can't do that. All right. And what you're going to do then is you're going to very lightly make like a big X that kind of goes through that there. So that V is kind of sitting on top of that X. All right. And then so you have these points here. What you're going to do is you're just going to kind of trace around that line there. This line here. You're just kind of tracing around them. This one here. And this one here. And then, sorry, it's moving on me. So yeah, I traced around those. And then I'm going to bring a really long V on the bottom. So I made an X. I traced around it. And then kind of connected the two with a really long V. All right, and then you can erase that X that was on the inside. Okay, and then you can add like some little sparkles to make it shine a little brighter. Okay. An easier way, you can start with the X, trace around it, and then do the upside down V on top and then a long V on bottom. Either one is whichever's easiest for you. Okay, and then what you can do on her gown, if you want to make a bunch of little ones like that, you can. Otherwise, if you want to keep them a little more simple, you can do some simpler stars if you want on there. All right, so then you can use crayon or colored pencil. If you have oil pastel, you can use that to color that in. But we want nice, bright, deep color. So you don't want to see any of the white of the paper behind it. You can look at the picture I have here for which colors you might want to do. You might also notice that they did some blending in the background with that orange and red and yellow. You can maybe experiment with that on a separate piece of paper. But I would recommend using that lighter color first, whichever you're going to blend. Kind of doing that lightly. If you're using colored pencil or crayon, do it kind of lightly, and then when you go over the top of it with that darker color, the red, then I would apply a little more pressure to make that kind of blend in together. If you're using oil pastel, you shouldn't have any trouble with that blending, but I would try that on another piece of paper before you do it on your background. Otherwise, I think you should be good to go.